Remember that when we create an activity, it moves through the lifecycle stages of first being created, started, and then resumed. And then the user can interact with the activity. When the user moves away from the activity, it moves into the paused and then stopped state. If the system kills the activity because it's no longer needed, then it moves into the destroyed state. So since the onDestroy method may not be called, we can only be sure that the onPause and onStop methods will be called. So let's revisit the documentation for the release method within the Mediaplayer class. So here it says that when an activity is paused via the onPause method or stopped via the onStop method, then this method, our release method, is called in order to release the Mediaplayer object. So in this case, either activity lifecycle method is fine, either the onPause method or onStop method, because you only need to release it just once. So we'll choose to release our resources in the onStop method. So when the activity is fully hidden from the user, we'll release the media resources, even if it hasn't finished playing the current audio file. All right, so let's make those code changes in our app now. So here in our numbers activity, down right before the release media player method, I'm going to override the onStop activity lifecycle callback method. So remember that whenever we override an activity lifecycle method, as shown here, we should call the superclass version of that method. So what I've done here with super.onStop, because the activity knows how to handle stopping an activity and doing other behind the scenes cleanup work that we as developers don't need to worry about. So if you've ever tried commenting out this line of code, you'll see that the app will crash unexpectedly. So don't do that. Now here, instead of just calling the release method directly on the media player object, I'm going to call the release media player helper method that we added earlier. So the reason that we use the release media player method instead of just the release method is that this one has some extra logic about setting the media player variable back to null if it's not currently configured to play a sound file. In this way, we'll consistently handle releasing the media player resources in our activity, whether it's released by finishing the audio file or because the activity was stopped. Now we'll need to test it on our device. Now with this new version of the app running on my device, when I tap into any category activity, let's say numbers, I can play the sound for each word as usual.
Luti.
But now, if I play a sound and then leave the app immediately by hitting the device's home button, the sound should immediately stop because of my code in the onStop method. So let's give it a try.
Mas.
Nice, so that's working as expected. Because remember previously, the pronunciation of each word would keep going even after I left the activity. And now it cuts off when I leave the activity. So great, that logic is working as expected. So now I'm going to replicate it for all the other activities. So here's the onStop method overridden in the colors activity, in the family activity, and lastly in the phrases activity. So let's run the app one more time to make sure all the other activities are working as expected.
Ta. Choco. Machak.